great thing about life is that wherever you are, there's always somebody that you know, or someone else who knows someone that you know, so to speak. I experienced this on Friday when I went down to a job briefing in Norwich, and after attending the briefing, which maybe lasted about maybe 2 hours, presentation, etc., you got a chance to speak to the people who would be your potential bosses and trainees who have completed this traineeship. In passing, I mentioned to one of the trainees who I was speaking to that I'd volunteered at the Paralympics and gained some really good experience there, which I'm proud of. And chap asked me why I'd volunteered, and I mentioned that I'd volunteered at the Royal Artillery Barracks in Woolwich Arsenal. And a light bulb went off in this chap's head when I told him that, because it turned out that his girlfriend's dad was someone who I worked with at the Royal Artillery Barracks. Dave Frost, there's a shout out for you. And it's weird that you go in situations like that, these are complete strangers, and they somehow know someone who knows you, and they know a nice little bit of information about you like that. So I thought that was quite weird, and that's another example of a small world that we live in. Anyway, that got me thinking about the Paralympics and how much I enjoyed it, and how I'd like to speak about my experience of volunteering there. Royal Artillery Barracks as a site was a really nice, warm, friendly site. Great atmosphere on all the kind of 7 or 8 days that I volunteered there. And looking back, I've made some really good friends out of that. I'm a bit of a secret hoarder, so I've still got a lot of the press releases that I was involved in. My role as a Games Maker volunteer was actually in the press operations. So basically my job and the job of my fellow workers there in our little media department section was actually go and interview the athletes before and after competitions, get quotes from them, put it up as a press release, which the accredited media who've got rights to publish that, they can do what they want with it. And the Games Makers, if you remember, we were the great volunteer workforce with those hideous purple and red jackets and uniforms on, which, to be honest, I don't think were too bad. Not saying that I wear it too often. I wear the trainers a lot, lovely grey Adidas trainers. But anyway, getting back on subject, yeah, the Paralympics was a tremendous experience. You got to kind of work and talk with people from a whole different ranges of backgrounds and ages that in probably everyday life I wouldn't normally mix with. In our media department group, we had people from up and down the UK, so from Norfolk, from Wales, Durham. We had people worldwide from Australia, Japan, Korea, Canada, Australia, Lithuania. So we had a really good mixture of people, and as our little team of maybe 10 or 15 people, I think we did really well, and it was really enjoyable to be part of something at the Paralympics, something that later in life I'm going to be, really proud to have been a big part of. And there were lots of funny stories that I had at the Paralympics. The catering, I have to admit, was absolutely fantastic. I can't remember whether it was Marks and Spencer, Waitrose or Tesco's, one of those big massive supermarket chains, and the catering was tremendous. Going beforehand, we thought it was going to be crap, kind of like airplane food, saying that I haven't been on an airplane in, say, 8 or 9 years now, so I can't actually say whether it's improved or not. The food there was tremendous, and the actual quality and the variation of choice that you had, it was tremendous. You had like 4 or 5 different choices per sandwich, and hot and cold food, drinks were good, fruit. Got to about the 3rd or 4th day, and I was standing there in queue, and I couldn't decide, so I told the lady on the other side of the counter running the canteen that particular day, you choose, because otherwise I'll be here for hours. But the Paralympics was a great achievement for this country. I think looking back at it, it kind of got the fact that we are, including people with various disabilities, we are just people at the end of the day, and it's kind of broken down a lot of misconceptions of disabled people, which has been really good. And Paralympic viewing figures were absolutely tremendous. As I said, I really enjoyed myself down there. You had a routine of maybe 7 or 8 days in a space of 2 weeks, and your travel was paid for. That was part of the Games Maker programme. There was something new every day, really, but there were the same competitors. So I was involved in para-archery and parachuting, which was at the RAB, and those weren't kind of the sports that, when applying online, I think you applied online early in 2011, that I really thought I'd be doing. I ticked, I think, basketball, hockey, football, might tick swimming or kayaking. I thought those would be quite fun sports to do. And I think you could decide whether you want to do Olympics, Paralympics, the both. And I think I applied to do Olympics and Paralympics, but I wasn't actually disappointed when I didn't get the Olympics, because there was so much of it on TV that I was quite glad that I didn't miss out on that. And I went down for a training day. I think it was at Bow, a big college up in Bow in East London, and rather hilarious to actually turn up a day before. You were told to print out your email which confirmed your name and whether you were meant to be there or not. And I turned up, and the lady behind the counter said, "There's a problem." I said, "Well, what's the problem? I've got my ID, that's fine. I'm here at the right time. What's the problem? Is there a computer mix-up on your part?" And she goes, "No, love, you've turned up a day early." And I was actually so shocked. I'm not saying almost fainted. I had to tell the girl to go and get me a couple of glasses of water, because I couldn't believe what I'd done. And I actually got back on the train and just dozed in my local park, feeding the birds, which was a rather kind way to end a rather humiliating day. But the actual training day, when I turned up the next day, my dad took me, so didn't have to spend more money to get there. It was good. There were actually a couple of people from the group, a lady called Anna, who was our kind of joint team leader at the Paralympics, and there was a Korean lad called, Juan, I think was his name, can't pronounce it, and they were both there. And there was a guy called Simon who also was a part of our group. So it's funny how in kind of a group of 20 people who attended that one training day, we were all part of the same team. And chatting to some of the athletes there, it was really good, because beforehand I knew nothing about para archery and shooting. I think I've got a cousin who used to do it professionally, or at an amateur level, who was quite good before she had to give it up. I think she had a back injury or something. And you got friendly with the athletes, and via the language service team, group of obviously people who speak different languages, they helped you interview the athletes. And there was one, wasn't funny as such, but I think I can laugh back at it now. It was a Japanese para shooter, and in this particular competition format there was a qualifying, final, and then the final. So you had to qualify to get in the final, and in the qualifying final stage, if you can imagine, say, a circle, they were getting bang right in the middle of it, so everyone was getting 10s on the target. And I thought, "Ooh, that's a bit odd, should so many people be getting it?" And in speaking to the Japanese athlete via the language services interview, I think her name was Ginny, Jenny or Ginny, and I basically said to the chap, "Is it so normal that everyone's standard is so high? Are you surprised so many people getting 10s?" And I think the guy took offence by it. Maybe he thought that I didn't actually think that parachuters were that good, and he kind of mumbled something, gave an answer, shaking his head, and then he kind of walked off. And the girl Ginny kind of said to me that you've upset him, and the interview's over, which was a bit odd. I don't think, looking back at it, I put that down on the press release. I just think that we kind of made up a standard answer that he thought he had done well, and apparently that's what he'd said also. So that was good. On the final night, back at the RAB, we had a marvellous barbecue / party. There was tons of food, so I was quite pleased. And it was a great chance to kind of meet everyone for the last time, say goodbyes, and keep in touch with people. There were some people that I actually forgot to keep in touch with, which I was looking back, I was a bit annoyed about, but that happens sometimes. And at the end of the night, when a few of us were going back on the train, we went back into our little media section, and you were able to take stuff that was left over. So we took some magazines and posters. I only had and took a packet of Frosties with, and some crackers. And a chap called Paul Wallace, if you're listening, Paul, kind of remarked to me that was a bit odd. And I said, well, otherwise it would have been chucked. So actually, in passing, it doesn't sound that funny at all. But overall, my Paralympic experience was great. Actually, coming back on the train on that final night, when I got off at my train station, Gants Hill, I could see my dad maybe 50 yards up the road, and this is on one of the stops on the Central Line. And I could see walking towards me were 3 kind of teenagers, had hoodies, etc. That's my phone going off with the time, but they had hoodies on, and I thought, oh, this is, this could be a bit troublesome. So I went across the road, and they actually continued walking towards me, and I was thinking, oh God, what's going to happen here? And instead of, I thought they were going to mug me, they actually all ran up to me, wanted to shake my hand, and wanted to ask me, what I'd done at the Paralympics. They wanted to kind of know what I'd done, and wanted to say on behalf of their friends and families that they thought us games makers had done a really good job, which I was quite surprised by. And I ended up chatting to these people for about 5 minutes and said, look lads, I've got to go, I'm tired, etc. My dad's just parked up the road. So appearances can be misleading. There I was thinking I would get mugged by these, well, you'd look at them and you might say yobs. The wind's picking up, but overall all these people wanted to do was just congratulate us. And I think the whole Games Maker workforce, the volunteers, as Boris Johnson and Seb Coe said in the closing ceremonies for both the Olympics and the Paralympics, did a great job. And hopefully in a few weeks' time I might go and speak about more of my Paralympic experiences, because there are quite a few more that I could speak about. But for now, that's the end of this episode. Hope you all had a good Christmas and a Happy New Year. Ta-da!